Body positivity is a social movement where you kind of want to. The point of the movement. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Let's start over. Body positivity is one of the most misunderstood social movements, I would say, that exists right now in contemporary discourse. So, like most things, when you want to understand it, you want to first define it. What is body positivity? Well, body positivity is a social movement that aims to redefine and change the role of physical beauty within society. When a social movement exists, it is meant to address something, address an issue, address a phenomenon, address something. So, what is body positivity trying to address? Well, there are a whole bunch of things. I will list some of them here. This is far from being a comprehensive list, but some of the things include self-esteem issues stemming from body image, the psychological phenomenon of self-objectification, in which you're constantly viewing yourself from a sort of like standardized outside perspective, where you're constantly concerned about how you look, how you appear to people around you from an outside perspective, has, led to or has been demonstrated in research to lead to a wide different ranges of like poor performance, everything from intellectually to physically. Candidates within these experiments that have been, found to demonstrate higher levels of self-objectification perform worse when it comes to like math and reading tests, worse when it comes to, their ability to throw a ball far or hit a ball far or kick it far, like physical tests, do planks, do push-ups, whatever. Having self-objectification is not just a sort of like mental framework that sets you up for a whole range of other different issues, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, but also that itself reduces your ability to just perform well in doing whatever you're kind of trying to do. Eating disorders is another thing that body positivity seems to, or seeks to address. Anxiety brought about by things like, for example, body dysmorphic disorder, mental illness, and self-harm, which all stem from a self-perception of like beauty or body image or stuff like that, or harassment caused because of it. Are things that the body positivity movement seeks to address. So within those issues, there are two core causes for all of this. These are manifested in our media, in our culture, and in education to some extent. And those two things is how beauty is defined and how, this is the one that a lot of people miss out on, they only focus on the first aspect, how beauty defines us. Body positivity, this is a lovely quote, I love this quote. Body positivity seeks not only to view more bodies as valuable, but also that people are valued as more than bodies to view. We as society need to see more in people before we can be more. What this means basically is that not only do we want to sort of like broaden the understanding of what body types we found attractive in society, but also focus on, okay, well, how much does how attractive we are, seen by society have to do with us as people? How much does that have to do with the way we are valued? How does body positivity seek to like address these things? Well, the first part of viewing more bodies as valuable, to put it that way, has to do with a whole lot of different things we can do in advertisements and media and education. So, for example, advertisements and media, the major thing is representation. Fairly obvious. Through having representation of a larger groups of bodies in mainstream media and in advertisement, more bodies are seen as, desirable, attractive, and societally acceptable. And as such, you broaden the understanding of what bodies we as a society deems attractive. So in advertisement, for example, having less focus on body and more on the product is a pretty important thing. So I'm sure you've all seen these advertisements, like a McDonald's advertisement where it's like it's like this lady who just like kind of like posing like on the side like this, and there's like a little burger like by her stomach, and it's an advertisement for the burger, definitely, not a perpetuation of a body type. So less advertisements like those that place a lot of focus on like body types and what we deem as attractive in society, more on the product as a whole. It's probably a good idea when it comes to broadening the definition of what we find as societally attractive when it comes to body types. When it comes to media, the reduction of harmful tropes could be something that is very important. So tropes like, for example, plot points that revolve around people feeling the need to like hide aspects of their body or like fix aspects of their body that they dislike, and that they find unattractive and that society finds unattractive is something that we could absolutely cut down on and would have a very positive effect on society as a whole and the viewers of those different media shows, or any media whatsoever. Social media absolutely is one of the major things here that is a massive culprit of enforcing the narrow view of what body types we find attractive. Then there's education as well. Historical analysis when it comes to what we historically have found as attractive, like sort of body types. The reason why having proper sort of historical understanding of how body types and the desirable ones have sort of like moved within society is that people start to realize that, hey, what we see as like beautiful is heavily arbitrary based on the time. It's not at all something that's like biologically essentialist or whatever. The type of desirable body types has shifted dramatically, even over like decades. So therefore you sort of like realize that there isn't as much of a like core essentialist cause to it. It's just arbitrary social things, and as such, you may be less inclined to put a lot of weight on it. On top of that, having correct incentives within physical education is also very important. When I had physical education classes and just like science classes and stuff like that, where we talked about how, for example, if you eat too much, you have like fat distribution within your body. If you don't exercise enough, you get fat roll, stuff like that. Instead of the PE teacher being like, hey, you gotta exercise, because if you don't, you're gonna have all this fat and you're gonna look ugly. Probably not the best incentive. The correct incentive would be like, hey, you want to exercise because you want to have a functioning and a capable body that you're able to do whatever you want with. That you're going to be strong, you're going to be healthy, you're going to live a long life, stuff like that. That's where you want to put the incentives on when it comes to physical education and stuff like that. Not focus on how not doing something or how eating healthily is going to make you look good. No. The focus should be on the functionality of your body rather than the appearance of it. The second part, a more interesting one, is how we should, as a society, value people more than bodies to view. Not place such a heavy emphasis on how somebody looks when it comes to how we view them as like a person. This includes things like shifting the perception of self-worth for people away from physical appearance to things such as character, to things such as personality, and to other aspects of your body, such as, for example, functionality based on your personal capacity, obviously. The main sort of, I guess, like driving motivational line here should be to view your body not as an ornament to be looked at, but as an instrument for you to use to accomplish what you want in your life. We can go through the main three, aspects of, pushing sort of like values or like cultural things within society: advertisement, media, and education again. As mentioned previously, a lot of the things from the previous one still applies, but there's some here that are more that are specific to the second part of the body positivity movement as well, which I will discuss a little bit here. In advertisements, rather than showing off bodies which conform to the societal standard, show people who have attained a range of personal goals. So, for example, instead of whenever you're advertising a product and you have like women models, have all of them be like skinny, slim, fit, tall as fuck, like Victoria's Secret models. Instead, have like a wide range of different people who are happy and comfortable with their body because they feel like they've achieved their goal. I'm reminded of a pretty interesting advertisement I saw a few years ago, actually, where there was an advertisement for caviar in Swedish, Kalles caviar, okay? And, they could have done the standard thing where they just have like contemporarily beautiful, fits the beauty standards woman just like holding and like cradling the caviar, like, don't you want some of this? Like something like that. They could have done that, but instead what they did, which is pretty interesting, and that I find a lot more memorable. I remember this advertisement to this day, even though I watched like 5 years ago maybe, was that they had a woman who was like a weightlifter, like Olympic champion or something like that, and they had her lift like a breakfast table, just like over and over like this, and they were like, I need to start off the day with a good breakfast. And she's just lifting this table over her head, and there's like all this breakfast stuff, and then like the caviar right in front of it. That's an example of a good advertisement that promotes not only a wider range of body types we see as sort of like beautiful, but also illustrates that that person's body type is not good because it conforms to the societal standard of it, but because that's what that person has strived towards. That's what they want their body to do. What they want their body to do is to be able to lift heavy shit. And that's what their body is doing. It's lifting this heavy fucking table over their head over and over and over. That's an example of a advertisement that falls in line with body positivity, even though it might not seem like it on the surface. When it comes to media, illustrating people striving towards the body types of their own desire, rather than, showing people like, oh, this person's like getting fit now or whatever. This person's having a makeover to conform to beauty standards, Instead of stuff like that, maybe pick someone like, for example, the weightlifter. Like, someone was like, hey, I want to be strong as hell, okay? I want to go to the forest of Serbia and just be able to like wrestle bears, okay? Illustrate that, sort of like path to success, rather than like, the path of like a model from like high school going through all like these eating disorders and now she's a famous model or whatever. Like, yeah. The third part, it has to do with education. This has a lot to do with the philosophy of self-worth and incentivization that I mentioned previously. Once again, viewing your body not as an ornament for other people to see, but as an instrument to do the things that you want to do with it. Teaching that sort of like philosophy of self-worth and reinforcing it through incentivization, like what I mentioned previously, for example, in the gym teacher example, where you shouldn't be like, you gotta exercise or else you will be fat and ugly, and instead orienting it towards like, hey, you want to exercise because you want to do the things that you want to do with your body without having to worry about it. You want to live a long and healthy life and not have diseases and be able to do any number of things that you find interesting or fun or exciting or whatever the hell. Sort of focusing the incentivization towards that is also a massive important part. So those are the two things when it comes to education. Teaching the body positivity philosophy of self-worth and the correct incentivization. Now, I'm going to address one of the main misunderstandings people have when it comes to body positivity, which is the belief that body positivity clashes with fitness. No, it does not. And framing it in the way that body positivity clashes with fitness is an awful way of promoting proper physical health. What you want to do when you incentivize the building of good physical health is you want to incentivize the improvements in physical health on the basis of how it makes you feel, because being healthy makes you feel good, and how it makes you function more effectively, not based on appearance. The issue with relating physical appearance, external appearance, to physical health is that, number one, it's a garbage metric for doing so. There have been plenty of studies affirming that the amount of exercise you do and what you eat are, by scales of magnitude, more effective ways of gauging your health levels than whether you not have, six-pack, whether you have good BMI, whether you fit in, that pair of jeans that you've been, kept in the back of your closet for too long. Your physical health and your external appearance are not as well related as we make them out to be. Number two is that by teaching people that the contemporary beauty standards are what's the most healthy, you end up being wrong. There have been plenty of beauty standards throughout history, not even ones that are long ago, just ones from a few decades ago, that are extremely physically unhealthy to get to and also to maintain. Whether it be things that encourage like exercising too much, overworking yourself, whether it's very often eating too little, engaging in, types of like surgery or whatever that may impede bodily function and carry the risk of like infection or botched surgery, for example. All these different beauty standards are far from being physically healthy. And then, most importantly, I suppose, or not most important, but most directly relevant to this debate, it's a bad motivator for a lot of people. So there's always this sort of like, I don't know, it's not a debate, it's something people say, but it's not disagreed upon in any academic community, which is that by shaming people that are fat, you get them to exercise and be more healthy. No, that's not how that works. A lot of the time, by, shaming people and making them feel worse about themselves, what ends up happening is they end up feeling much more worse mentally, and mental and physical health are super intertwined. But also, when people are of poor mental health, they tend to engage in decisions that are, more like irrational, that are destructive, that go back into like a sort of like comfort zone that may be, comfortable in the short term, but lead to poor physical health. Shaming people is not an effective way to get them to, to perform better when it comes to getting fit and stuff like that. It doesn't work. A much better way is by focusing on the positive aspects, the things I mentioned before, being like, hey, you want to make sure that you have the body for you where you're able to do all the things that you want to do. You're able to live a long life. You're able to be healthy. You're able to not have to go to the doctors, to have any chronic disease, to have to take surgeries and stuff like that. You want full functionality to do the things that you want to do with your body. That's a much, much more effective, much more ethical, much more moral, and just generally a better motivator. That's the sort of the body positivity fitness clash, which doesn't exist at all. That's what body positivity is. Those are the issues that body positivity seeks to address. It's based on the core causes, which is how beauty is defined and how beauty defines us. The ways by which you accomplish these goals often have to do with advertisements, media, and education. There is no clash between body positivity and fitness. In fact, body positivity and fitness often go hand in hand and create a much better outcomes, but also better mental and physical health on your way towards your desired outcomes. And just to finish it off, I'm going to read out the quote again that is super important and that perfectly, I feel, encapsulates body positivity. Body positivity seeks not only to view more bodies as valuable, but also that people are valued as more than bodies to view.